Wandering Beekeeper here. We are going to be covering Ars Nouveau today. We are starting in the 1.16.5 game world. Partway through this video, there will be a pause and we will switch over to the 1.18.2 game world to look at the same mod in a later version. There are differences that I believe are significant. You just saw one of them. So, this is Expectation Gulch. If you've been watching these videos, you've seen it before. Let's go on and talk about Ars Nouveau. Ars Nouveau is the spiritual successor and reimagining of Ars Magica. It's got a new aesthetic, some new methodologies, and some very interesting things going on. Let's just get on into it right away here. I'm going to have to sort a couple of things very quickly. Where is my notebook? Get rid of those two. Do a sort. There it is. It's in the box. Of course, it's in the box. It's a logical place to put it. We start with the Worn Notebook. The Worn Notebook is the documentation for Ars Nouveau. The Discord link, by the way, is worth following. There were a couple of points in working through this mod where I was able to get assistance quickly and supportively from the mod community on the Discord. I was very pleased. Nobody told me get good or any of that nonsense. I explained the wall I'd run into and was told, okay, you missed this one thing. If you do this, it should all work together. And it was done politely, so I appreciate that. I like when a community is supportive and positive, doesn't get judgy and all that sort of BS. So, getting started gets you straight into spellcasting. I mean, first you are going to make a spellbook. And the spellbook is pretty. It's purple with gold edging and a lock on it, and it's easy to make. You don't have to go questing for a bunch of stuff. This is stuff you're already going to have laying around by the time you get around to doing the magic mod. You've already got iron tools and books available. Got cows and sugar cane and such. It talks about mana. I like that it breaks down the documentation into these bite-sized pieces. Doesn't load you up with so much right in one go. Tells you, okay, you will start out with a few gimmies. You get break, you get harm, haste, light, which is really handy, amplify, which boosts the effectiveness of a spell, ignite, summon steed, and then it tells you how to make a Glyph Press. Now, a Glyph Press is how you gain these abilities. This is a Glyph Press. It is sitting on top of a source jar, which is the magic container. This is your mana container. We saw a jar shaped somewhat like this in Elemental Craft just last video. 1 block high. I like the Art Nouveau, though. I really like the glass box with the caddy. There is something like a Syrian tea glass about it, where you have the metal holder and then the glass inside. It's elegant. One of the things that I've really enjoyed about this mod is that its aesthetic is elegant. It is graceful. I like that. The Glyph Press, I can't use it right now because I've learned all the glyphs, has a really nice little skill crane type animation with the operating head here. You load a bit of magical clay in, and then you load in the necessary bits, and it tells you how to do this in here. that there is a reagent, and then you need source. So you put in the magical clay, and when you drop the reagent in, the item you have to go scrounge up that is appropriate somehow to the glyph you're trying to create. Glyphs are those things like break and harm that we saw in the book a few minutes ago. Those were glyphs. It creates a new physical glyph. You take the glyph out of the press, you hold it up, you use it, and that drops it into your spellbook and makes it available to you. And here are all the glyphs. So, for instance, this is the light ball spell. Light ball consists of the glyph for projectile, which gives me the form, and then the effect, conjure mage light. It's a real simple one. It's a projectile, and it puts a ball of light where I'm pointing. And that ball of light will hang there forever because mage light doesn't go out. Doesn't expire. No more torches. I don't carry torches. I have no need of them. I can pop up a light anywhere I want it. Mana and Artifice actually has a better light ball spell. It has a sound effect, it has better graphics, and the ball of light is actually brighter. This is getting me not as much illumination as I would like. The mage light in Mana and Artifice is a level 15 light source. It's going to give you maximum possible illumination in the area. It's a minor quibble. It's still cool. It's still amazingly cool to be able to put a light anywhere and not have to carry a stack of torches and constantly to get resupply on them. So, you make your glyphs. Somewhere along the line, you have created and you've learned all the glyphs, and you get some interesting stuff. The Pogan rune is one of the nastier things I've created in this game. Projectile rune launch. Projectile. I can cast this from a distance. When it hits, it creates a rune on the ground, or on the that will then let off the spell effect when something walks over it. It creates a magical landmine. Launch. Launch does exactly that. It launches whatever steps on it vertically. And then we have Amplifies. We have 7 Amplifies. This is a rune that will launch a pillager so far up into the air that they will not survive the fall. So if I have pillagers approaching, I can fire a few of these into their path and then just watch them all pogo into the air and die on impact. You can take out about half of a attacking squad in one go that way, and it will do considerable damage to the attack beasts that they bring sometimes. Will also do a lot of damage to an evoker or a vindicator, but it won't take them out in one shot. Okay, we need to move on to talking about the mod, not about how I'm using it or abusing it, as the case may be. Source. Source is stored in source jars. Source jars, I have a bunch of them lined up here. Some of them are full, some of them are not. That is a splitter. Botania has a mana splitter. Ars Nouveau has a source splitter, a splitter relay that will allow you to target the relay, and the relay then splits the source among all jars in the area. It actually will pick one and run it until it's full, and then it starts on the next one available. It does not share them out equally like the splitter in Botania does. Good. Here, I'm going to... There. I'm going to cheat just a little bit. This is a Volcanic source link. This is one of the ways you get source in Ars Nouveau. It is probably the fastest and most efficient. It consumes heat or anything combustible. I think they originally had in mind putting it next to lava or something. What I've done here is use the same open crate and hopper and chest that I would use in Botania for a mana spreader. Instead of putting an exoflame here to eat the coal and turn it into mana, and then having a mana spreader to collect the mana and fire it on, the Volcanic Source Link performs all those functions in one device. Let me show you here. And just drop that in there, and it will immediately start popping out the open crate. And it goes quick, doesn't it? And look at that. See that pulse? Every 4 coal, we get a pulse of source going to this jar, and you can see the jar filling up with source. I've got a source jar back here to power the Enchanting Apparatus. This is the Enchanting Apparatus sitting on the arcane core, and the 8 pedestals around. It's a very familiar design. This one does some interesting graphics, and I should actually go on and make something here because this is worth it. Just for the, enchanting, and let's do an aqua affinity on a helmet. And I need fish, source gems, and lapis lazuli. Let's see if I have that stuff laying around. I start playing around with. Oh yeah, here's 2 source gems. That's not a problem. And here's the 2 lapis. I don't know if I have any fish sitting around or not, but I'm going to go look before I use a give command. I have no qualms about using give commands. I am here to do enchanting work, not to go chasing fish. So there. I have better things to do than waste your time watching me out hang out with a fishing pole. So we will set this up. We're going to put aqua affinity on a helm. 2, 3, 4. Put source block on this and this. And we lapis here and here. Let's go in real quick. See if I have a trusty. Yes, I do. 2, 3, 4, 5. There's some diamonds, so there is a helm. And let's go do the enchanting. Add the catalyst to the enchanting apparatus. Poof. It does kind of a neat little thing to put the enchantment on. Kind of cool, isn't it? This is Warding Stone. This is one of the really major things in Ars Nouveau for 1.16 that was dropped when they revised the mod for Minecraft 1.18. Warding Stone is seen by players and neutral mobs as decorative purple block. Hostile mobs see it as lava source block. They will not cross it. They will not step onto it. So I have a line of this stuff. It is expensive. It takes 9 arcane stone. Each block of arcane, it takes 9 arcane stone, which is a lot of regular stone and source gems, let me tell you. It's 1 source gem and 8 stone for every 8 arcane stone, so that's a lot of source gems I have to grow. There is a crystal growing device that you feed catalyst and it turns it into source gems. I don't have one set up right now. But yes, I have put warding stone around my ritual space, and then I've also put it all the way around the compound so that hostile mobs cannot enter the compound. I put lanterns out. I think this is a real loss to the mod, going from 116 to 118. The warding stone was removed. Really quite a major loss. The mod does a lot of really amazing stuff, though. Looked at enchanting, and it does all these different enchantings. You can take protection all the way up to level 4. Just have to do it in sequence. You enchant your item with level 1, then you enchant it with level 2, then with level 3, then with level 4. So you are using a lot of glyphs of touch. You need that Glyph Press a lot. But it's controllable. You can produce exactly what you're after and not be subject to the vagaries of the enchanting table. There's a good amount of magical equipment. The Ring of Greater Discount is well worth getting. It gives you a discount on how much mana your spells cost. The Jar of Light is kind of neat. It summons this sort of little will-o-wisp light that floats around you. The blood magic I did not get into. It was dropped with the move to 118, and frankly, I think it was a good move. It clashes with the aesthetic of the rest of the mod, and there's already a blood magic mod. It's redundant to another mod. The Enchanter's equipment is really good stuff. The potion flask is handy. It holds 8 charges of a potion. And then you can have potion jars back home that'll hold 100 doses. No more storing thousands of little bottles. Love that. Rituals, there's some really fun work here. This is where big magic happens. There's some fun stuff, and we're going to look more at rituals in the 1.18. I'm going to skip that for now. Looked at magical equipment, looked at spells, automation. We're going to look at automation in the next section. The Carbuncle is a blue gem. It got renamed the Starbuncle for the next version, which was good. The Sylph got renamed the Whirly Sprig, and we'll meet these people in the next section of this video. I think we are about done with the 1.16. Let me show you one more thing. Because, Vex My Enemies. That's a fun one. It allows you to be an evoker and summon Vexes. Boombolt. This is probably the most destructive spell in Ars Nouveau. Any further questions? So, that is Ars Nouveau in 1.16.5. Let us now flip over to 1.18.2 and look at the differences, and we will also at that point get into the automation, which is, like Resourceful Bees, whimsical and engaging. I love how they've done it. This is one of the strong points of the mod. So, one moment please. And here we are in the 1.18.2 game world. A couple of pro tips here. First, treat your spellbooks as the live ordnance that they are. Do not load them into your hotbar until you are ready to deploy them. Second, maintain backups. I had a bit of an oopsie in between the previous segment and recording this one, and had to roll back my game world to yesterday's snapshot because I had a boom bolt go off in the lab. Again, this lab has already been rebuilt once. I'm not doing it a second time. Save early, save often, keep backups, know how to roll back to a previous snapshot, and be careful of your spellbooks. They go off when you don't mean them to. Our friend the Bookworm here was witness to it all. This is one of the familiars that are available in Ars Nouveau, the Bookworm. I love the visual pun. The Bookworm, let us look him up here. Oh, come on. No. Under familiars, the Bookworm. He reduces the cost of spells that I cast and increases my spell damage. Handy for a spell slinger. There are 4 others. The Drigme, who's an earth elemental. You'll see these little guys running around in the prairies every now and then. The renamed Carbuncle, which is a gold-seeking squirrel with blue antlers. The Whirly Sprig, previously the Sylph. The design actually hasn't changed. It's still a little green flitterby with the whirly leaves on top. But Whirly Sprig fits the aesthetic better than Sylph, I think. And the Wixie. You do not actually have to cast a spell on a witch to get a Wixie crystal and be able to summon a Wixie. Wixie crystals are found as drops sometimes. Okay. These familiars each have abilities, but they're also involved in automation. For example, you have a spell turret. The spell turret fires off spells when it's given a redstone signal. You load them with a spell and then you set up a redstone signal. So every time you can set up a redstone signal from your harvester saying, okay, I just harvested, fire off a growth spell. That sort of thing. Bookworms can be tied to source jars and cast spells from their lectern. You can swap out the spells. They're more programmable. You can summon a bookworm onto a lectern, and then the bookworm can cast spells from that point. So on and so forth. There are a number of things going on here. Let's work our way through. Let's start with spell casting, because that's where we started with the last one. Oh, there's a lot to do here. There's the Enchanting Apparatus. We have another device over there. We'll talk about the Scribe's Table. This replaces the Glyph Press. There is no Glyph Press. We don't need it. Instead, we take our spellbook to the Scribe's Table, and there we have our glyphs. And if we want to unlock a glyph we don't already have, we do it here. I haven't unlocked Summon Wolves. I've not really had a need for it, so I'm going to do so now. And it tells me I'm going to need a Conjuration Essence, 3 bones, and 4 Wilden Wings. I select it, And I now need to toss those items onto the table. Just unload this, and we have a Conjuration Essence. We get a nice little animation of mana coming up into the table. We'll start hucking bones and oh, there we go. And it has written the glyph. Just like that. We didn't need all the other stuff. We only needed the one item. Sometimes it's like that. Nice bit of animation, isn't it? The quill comes over, dips in the inkwell, writes the glyph. It's really nice graphics with this mod. We hold the glyph up, use it, and it is now unlocked in our spellbook. So if I go to the interface where I can create new spells, summon wolves, will be unlocked. There we go. It's on page 2. And now, page 2. No, I'm not going to do the Paul Harvey thing. Wouldn't do that to you. The spellbook has a number of other goodies. It allows you to pick the color of your magic, which is kind of neat. It tells you about your familiars. If my Bookworm gets left behind in a teleport, I can come here and click and he'll reappear. There's where I control the sound for spells and so forth. Settings for dynamic lighting and some information about the Discord. Then it'll flip me back over to the documentation if I need to, which is a good thing. That's why we don't leave it hotbar, and why we leave it set to something safe. So, same basic stuff going with resources and decoration. We will talk about what Wield Walkers are in a few minutes. Wilden are dangerous. They are transforming critters that flip back and forth between a flying fox and a werewolf form and are sometimes accompanied by a couple of red-eyed wolves, and they will attempt to eat you. Just leave them alone. Archwood trees. There are several kinds of archwood, and you will need archwood lumber as a foundational element in this particular mod. I have up here cascading, vexing, flourishing, and blazing, the 4 kinds of archwood. I have a suspicion that they somehow correspond to earth, air, fire, and water. You will need archwood planks to make a lot of things, like to make the source jars. Various things that drop Drigme shards, Wixie shards. Told you don't have to cast a spell on a witch. I've never cast a spell on a witch. I have a couple of them. So on and so forth. You'll find a lot of this stuff just in large quantities floating around. Whirly Sprig shards, Carbuncle shards are a dime a dozen. I have up here my Archmage robes. This is some fairly good armor. It just doesn't measure up to the Supremium armor that I'm wearing that goes with Mystical Agriculture. I have a couple of extra glyphs up here. Some augment arrows. Wearing the Archmage robes does give me some mana discount, which is nice. It just doesn't have the armor protection that I can get from other mods. The Imbuement Chamber, that's what we were looking at in the back. That's for lesser crafting, magical crafting. The Potion Jar, mentioned that earlier. There's one. 2 mana regeneration potions hucked in here. No more keeping lots of little bottles. I have 1 big jar, and I can refill an 8-charge flask from it. Cool stuff, don't you think? Source goes through the same basic stuff with the agronomic source link that drives mana from crop growth and the Vitalic from animal growth, the Volcanic from heat. The Volcanic is really your best bet. The Imbuement Chamber back here is used for small-scale enchanting. You put your components on the pedestals around it, and you tap it with an open hand, and it fires off, and it does small-scale stuff. There are source jars for the stuff that is needed for making, and some material components on hand. The Enchanting Apparatus sits on top of Enchanting Core. Same basic arrangement as last time. The graphics are a little different. And let's just look at enchanting here. And our Aqua Affinity takes the same stuff as last time. It's getting to be night, so probably a good time to go mucking about with this kind of thing. Here's 2 of these. And let's look in here. There's a couple of these. I kind of doubt I have fish on hand. Oh, I do. There's 4 tropical fish. Those should do it. Let's go. Make a quick diamond helm. Go. And let's do let's go on and do the enchanting, because this is worth seeing and worth demonstrating. So we'll go around and load up the fish. And we'll load up the lapis and the source gems. And then we'll come over here. Yes, Bookworm. You're welcome to come along too. And let's fire this off. They counter-rotate now. You don't get the Thaumcraft effect of the components dissolving into particles and streaming into the middle, but it's still cool. And that counter-rotating gold piece, I mean, it's just, that's just fun to watch. So kudos to the developers here. They've done great work with the graphics. We have seen our source relay splitter before. The splitter is tied to these source jars and then back to a link that produces the source energy needed. Let's do a quick sleep because we should. And then we'll go outside and have a look at what's going on. Because outside is some interesting stuff. We have a small garden over here. We have Mage Bloom and Source Berries. Oh, hi. That is a Wheeled Walker. That is a flourishing Wheeled Walker because it was conjured from a flourishing archwood tree. Remember I said you would need them? Took 2 archwood saplings to create this guard. Grew 1 archwood and then used a ritual with the ritual brazier and a tablet and transformed the tree into a Wheeled Walker. I then grew another archwood tree on the exact same spot as the first one and used a second ritual and with the tablet to bind the Wheeled Walker to the tree. That Wheeled Walker will now protect an area in a 10-block radius from the block of log of this tree that it is bound to. So any hostile mobs that wander into the area, that the Wheeled Walker will flatly deal with them. This is part of the automation. Automation in Ars Nouveau is done through summoned entities. We'll gather those. As these grow, they will generate mana, or source, that the agronomic source link will pick up, and it will then relay into the house. Kind of a neat system. Down here, well, down here we have the farm. I have this little farm built, and there's our Whirly Sprig, who is extremely happy. She is extremely happy because there is a wide variety of plants growing. I had to put in a bunch of different types of flowers. Oh, hey, this chicken's currently being encouraged. Producing, excuse me. Chicken, having just laid an egg, produced source energy that went off to the hinge. Oh, they need source. Okay, you need source. I can take care of that. Let me go get a jar of source, and we'll come back in a second and look more at this, because there's a Drigme there. There is a Drigme hinge. When you do the ritual to summon a Drigme, the block that you have summoned him to and bound him to turns into a Drigme hinge. There are no gates. This garden is very deliberately difficult to get into. There is your source jar. You now have 100 soaking it up already. This agronomic source link is tied to that jar, but it's not filling it because I haven't been harvesting down here. Now the Whirly Sprig, who is extremely happy because of the biodiversity in the area, has been sending all sorts of stuff back to her home blossom here, which drops into the chest. I didn't harvest a darn bit of this. The Whirly Sprig is harvesting all of this from the area around her. She's gone up into the hills and found some mystical purple flowers and brought back a few of those. She found an aspen tree. The blue enchanted tree and the green enchanted tree here, neither one of them have ever had a single block cut from them. The Whirly Sprig conjures the logs from them magically. She doesn't need to. The flowers don't get picked, they're just replicated into the chest. So on and so forth. All of this stuff just shows up because I've got her happy and productive. Pretty much the same with the Drigme. Once you have enough of a variety of animals, sugar, in the area, well, that's in a way a little bit fortunate. Let us go on and fire off the hoe. That does some harvesting. And we'll put a flax seed there, since that's what I jumped on. Oops. Oh, look. When that plant grew a level, it fired off a little bit of mana to the agronomic source link. Here's our Drigme coming through. He's not doing much of anything right now. He's been busy. You'll see him occasionally go dance around an animal. When he does that, and there's two of them. This one's dancing around dancing at the sheep. When he dances the animal, we get mana source and goodies rolling back to the hinge. And this is why I have all of this mutton despite never having killed a sheep. It is conjured off of the animal by the Drigme. Oh, I'm holding seeds, so the chickens are following me around. Sorry, birds. I'm sorry. So, you get your stuff planted, you get your your whirly sprig and you're conjured into the air and bound. You get your animals brought in. You conjure and bind a Drigme. This little micro hinge. Make sure they're kept supplied with source. And presto. The wheeled walker here, this is a blazing wheeled walker. This wheeled walker can launch fire that will not damage crops. It will only hit hostile mobs. That wheeled walker is bound to the blazing archwood tree here. Because the blazing archwood tree is the center of the wheeled walker's protected space, and of course, because we have that, we end up with blazing archwood saplings and blazing archwood log in the chest from the whirly sprig, who conjures the saplings and the logs off of the tree without damaging it. So the automation here for the farm is all through conjuring and binding various nature spirits, spirits of earth and spirits of plants and spirits of trees. I really like the approach that Ars Nouveau has taken with this. It is attractive. It is not just efficient and effective and it. I mean, look at the production on this. You know? Oh, and those are experience gems. Here's a fun one. The Drigme brings me experience. Look at my experience bar rolling up under the hearts. It's not going to roll up far enough to gain me a level, but my Drigmes will occasionally drop experience gems in the chest. So we get all of all those resources for the trouble of keeping the Drigme and the whirly sprig happy. What makes them happy is biodiversity. Keep the livestock diverse, keep your crops diverse, and you will have lots of stuff coming in. All you have to do is occasionally go place the source jar. If I were more efficient, I would have a volcanic feeding them, but you know, I'm not always the most efficient. Let's go around the back and look here. Here is my volcanic. Looks different. It no longer has animation. It no longer slowly turns. It does, however, tend to turn the blocks in the 9-block square into magma blocks, and sometimes it'll turn a magma block into a lava block, and lava blocks then makes a pick, have lava lilies growing on them. So you can harvest lava lilies for this sort of decorative flower that grows on lava. Oof, the other one disappears. You've seen this system before. We drop coal into there. It goes through the hopper into the open crate, which dispenses it one at a time. The pressure plate keeps it from dispensing until the previous one is consumed. And that little sucker will consume them really, really fast. And it's sending a pulse after every coal now, not after every fourth. That is a lot of source that happens really fast. It's very effective. That's just a relay. An ordinary relay that I set up and then realized I didn't need. Because I had source jars close enough. So yeah, here you see this splitter here, which is currently rebalancing This jar is full, so the energy coming in is having to be rerouted to this jar. That is our coal ticking along and filling the jar. It's quick and efficient, isn't it? This is why I recommend getting the Volcanic link set up absolutely as soon as you can. You will have to set up the aggro first. You have to make a little advancement to get the Volcanic, but it is so worth it. We haven't really talked about some of the other stuff. The Scrying System that allows you to have vision at a distance and keep an eye on things without having to go there. Basically, you can put security cameras out in the world and sit and watch them from a central panopticon. A little creepy, maybe. Warp portals that allow you to set up a teleportation network, and warp scrolls that allow you to bounce around through it. There's other things that can be done, other ways of gaining source. You can burn potions to create source. You can burn fungus. The rituals do some interesting things. There's one that makes it night and one that makes it day, and so on and so forth. The Tablet of Binding is how you get your spirits and how you set them up as guardians. The Tablet of Awakening is how you create a wheeled walker. You awaken a tree. Waking up the trees, it's how the Ents were created. I always wanted somebody to talk to. You know? The automation, like I said, it's all about summoning and binding. There is a Dominion wand that is used for, like a wrench, to connect source links and source jars and splitters. Get your energy network all connected together. It's basically a magical pipe wrench. Mage Bloom bed, which you only need if you have a Carbuncle, because it has to have a bed to sleep in when it's not out chasing around. Otherwise, these are spirits. They do things, and you summon and bind them to an area, and then they do the thing that they do. There's no programming or anything. You're just using these spirits of nature to do what they do. And it's just sort of a beneficial relationship in a way. The Whirly Sprig is extremely happy. She has a highly diverse garden. She's got plenty of energy to work with. She has a blazing wheeled walker to defend her garden and her from hostile mobs. Not a bad deal, really. The machines also include the Scribe's Table, which we've seen, the Ritual Brazier, which we haven't demonstrated. We've seen Enchanting. I think we have, at this point, about got through it. The Mage Light Sconce is kind of a neat thing. I've used a few of them here and there. I don't think I have any in here. You light them by firing a light ball at them. And they're basically... I don't have any around here. Shame on me. They're a nice decoration. They look good. And that is Ars Nouveau from 116 to 118. It is not in a nutshell. It is large. It is a complex and well-developed mod. It is under continuing development. The Discord, as I've mentioned already, is active and supportive and friendly. This is a really strong Magic mod. I'm very pleased with it, and I love the whimsy and the whole approach that they've taken to automation, the aesthetic that they've taken. with the Art Nouveau gold and purple. It's just 5 out of 5 all around. I'm the Wandering Beekeeper, and I'm done effusing over this mod. Thank you.